Hi, I'm Archie Burton Smith, the writer and director of The Longest Night. Before we begin this episode, I'd like to talk about a few things. First, the featured cause of this episode is Across Boundaries, an organization dedicated to providing a dynamic range of mental health support specifically aimed at improving the quality of mental health and addiction care for racialized individuals. The coronavirus lockdown has been an incredibly tough time for a lot of people mental health-wise, and those in racialized communities often have less access to important mental health services. Across Boundaries works to increase access to mental health aid for racialized people, is staffed by people who come from those communities, and provides accessible services in various languages. To support Across Boundaries and learn more about them, visit their website at acrossboundaries.ca. Next, a content warning. The Longest Night is a show that deals with dark subject matter and potentially distressing themes. Episode 3 contains scenes of violence, coarse language, frightening scenes, and discussions of mental illness. Now, without further ado, I'm pleased to present Episode 3 of The Longest Night. Enjoy.
UC Follies presents The Longest Night, a radio play by Archie Burton Smith. Episode 3, Our Time is Up. Chapter 5, Brute Force.
Next up is prisoner number LV426. Guards, please bring him in. Good morning, Andrew.
Good morning, Warden.
Do you know why we're here?
Parole. You get to have your little bullshit hearing.
We find these hearings important, Andrew. They give us a chance to see if your behavior has improved. Shall we begin?
Yeah. Whatever.
We now begin the parole board hearing for Andrew Wilson, case number LV426. Warden Hopkins is presiding.
As is Dr. Herman Carter.
Who are you?
Dr. Carter is our new state-sanctioned psychiatric expert. He's going to be observing.
Another shrink, huh?
Andrew, can you please tell us what you're in here for?
You already know.
For the record, please.
For the murder of my family.
Thank you. Andrew, you are currently sentenced to life in prison for these crimes. Is that correct?
Yep.
Do you regret your actions? In hindsight, do you feel any need to...
I didn't do it.
Excuse me?
I didn't do it.
There are key witnesses saying you gunned down your whole family. I'm quite certain you did do this.
Yeah, I pulled the trigger. But I didn't do it. She did.
And we return to your favorite sticking point. No one made you do this.
That's not true. She did. My friend.
Andrew, it's been almost 30 years and you're still sticking by this story. You ever want to be eligible for parole, you're gonna have to finally fess up.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I have a few questions about the person who made you do this.
Yeah, sure. I'm an open book.
Andrew, can you walk me through what happened that night?
Well, I went to go speak with my friend, the one I mentioned, and she told me what I needed to do. Sounded like she was right. So I went to the living room, grabbed Dad's rifle, went upstairs, shot my parents. Then I shot my sister. Then I went and shot Greg.
Did they try to fight back?
No. Killed them all. Easy peasy.
And where was your younger sister, Sarah, during this?
Hell if I know.
Do you regret doing this, Andrew?
Look, I've said it before. I didn't do it. She made me.
Jesus Christ.
Who did?
A woman in the basement.
Who is she?
A friend.
And she told you to do this?
She did.
Was she cruel to you?
No. She was kind. She didn't force me to kill them. She made me want to.
Okay, I've heard enough. Parole denied.
That was the October 10th, 2010 parole hearing of prisoner LV-426, one Andrew Wilson, at Havenwood Maximum Security Correctional Facility. After that call with my uncle, the one where he said he was going to murder my mother, I had to make sure he was really out, that this wasn't some hoax, that she was actually in danger. In the back of my mind, I hoped that this was all some sick prank, another local asshole making things more difficult for a woman who has already lost everything. So, I utilized the Freedom of Information Act to request the documents. And, with the help of a few phone calls from some high-up friends in the Coast Guard, I managed to get a hold of the tapes that revealed he really had escaped. And of course it was true. Andrew really was out. More on that later, though. First, we turn our attention to our next tape, Kit Therapy, 1979 to 1980. As I mentioned before, my mother adored her sister Kit. She was beautiful, smart, kind, funny, a quadruple threat. The way my mom talked about her, it sounded like Kit lived a charmed life. No muss, no fuss, just good times and great oldies. But as I listened to this tape, I was reminded that Kit was just as human as the rest of us. Kit Therapy 1980 unsurprisingly turned out to be a series of recordings between Kit and her therapist. Well, therapists, but I haven't included the ones you don't need to listen to. It seemed that Kit's charmed Atlanta life wasn't all it was chalked up to be, and she was going to therapy to work through it. And, taking after her father, she recorded all of it, in a classic Wilson moment. I'd explain more, but it's probably best to let you listen for yourself. This first tape is from October 12th, 1979, Kit's first meeting with Dr. Thulis.
Hello, Mrs.
Wilson. Catherine Wilson?
Ah, Mrs. Wilson. I'm Dalton Thulis. Thank you for coming in today.
Do you mind if I record this? It's kind of a safety blanket for me, knowing I can listen back.
I don't see any reason why not. Your doctor's referral here says you've been having trouble sleeping?
Yes. We tried normal methods of treatment, earlier sleep, iron supplements, melatonin, but no luck. So we figured we'd give this a shot.
Well, I'm pleased to hear you're open to the concept of therapy. Many people have an unfortunate view of psychologists, but we're just looking to help.
Oh, I know the field. My husband is actually a doctor. But he doesn't think I should be here.
Doesn't think you should be here?
He doesn't think I have anything wrong with me, so he thinks it's a waste of money.
I can assure you, therapy is never a waste of money.
I'm glad to hear it. And I agree. I'm not interested in taking any medication, if that's okay.
Noted. So when did you start having sleeping problems?
The rest of this interview is honestly kind of boring. In fact, most of them are. This one just ends with him telling her to make affirmations every morning and evening and to practice patterned breathing cycles. That's pretty much all that happens for the first few months. Things start to get interesting in December 1979.
Hello, Catherine.
Hi, Doctor. It's good to see you.
You as well. How has your sleeping been?
It's been better. Still not ideal, though. I've been worried that I'll miss something if I sleep too long.
Miss something? Anything specific?
No, just something.
That's interesting. Have you had a similar fear before?
Well, I often worry about Garrett being angry with me if I do something wrong. Or if something terrible happening to my family.
Does Garrett get angry with you?
Oh, his temper can run hot, but never with me. He's just frustrated, usually with his work. Says he wants to be helping people more and that he can't at his current job.
If you don't mind me asking, what is his current occupation?
Well, he's working as a cosmetic surgeon, which is important work, and he knows that, but people don't believe in his services, so he doesn't receive the necessary resources.
Believe me, I'm familiar with the problem.
Right, of course.
I'd like to jump back for a moment. You're concerned for your family's safety?
Yes. I sometimes dream about something terrible happening to them.
Fascinating. Do you have any reason to do this? Any strange behavior from them recently?
No, of course not. They're normal. I just...
Feel a sense of dread?
Yeah, like it's gnawing at me. It just doesn't go away.
I believe you may be suffering from acute anxiety.
Yeah, adorable.
It's a medical term. It means you're imagining problems that aren't there. It causes you to worry and assume the worst.
How does one fix that?
I know it's a sensitive subject for you, but medication.
No, that's not an option.
It could really help you, Catherine.
It won't.
Why do you feel nervous about medication?
Medication changes people. I don't need that.
That is a rare occurrence. Usually, people just become a more healthy version of themselves. Is there a reason for your aversion to medication?
My mother takes a lot. She had an episode. Now they've drugged her up and she changed.
How so?
Her mood changed. She became flighty. She's disconnected from us.
That sounds more like the effect of medication abuse than medication.
Excuse me?
Oh, I'm not accusing your mother of popping pills. I'm suggesting she may have the wrong type of medication or dosage. Do you know what she's taking?
Something prosamine?
Chlorpromazine?
That's the one.
That's an antipsychotic.
Meaning...
Meaning your mother has a severe mental illness, or, judging by the lack of impact from the drug, she has been misdiagnosed.
As in, she's not crazy?
No one is crazy. Some people just need more help than others. But either way, your mother seems to have been overprescribed. You may want to send her to another doctor.
Her doctor is a family friend. Dad has a loyalty to him.
That's a shame. If they ever change their mind, I can recommend a good doctor in the area.
Thank you. I'll keep that in mind.
She didn't get her father to switch doctors. Kit should have listened to Thulis. But we all do things we wish we could change. Chapter 6. Freudian Slip.
Come in.
Hello.
Ah, Dr. Carter. Good to see you.
Yes, I wanted to chat.
Absolutely. Hope you don't mind my recording this. States on my ass about record keeping.
Yeah, no problem. I wanted to discuss Andrew Wilson.
Yes, my favorite guest. You got quite a rise out of him.
Has he talked about this friend before?
Oh, loads of times. Never the basement thing, though. That's new.
His friend in the basement?
A new wrinkle.
Was someone else there? An accomplice?
Herman, you're reading into the ravings of a lunatic. He's crazy. None of it means anything.
I'm not sure I am, Warden.
Meaning?
Mr. Wilson is fully cognizant of the situation.
I still don't follow.
Wilson knows details about the night that happened. He explains feelings he felt. If this were a psychotic episode, his memory would be fuzzy and lack detail, and if this were a product of mental illness, he'd likely be incredibly remorseful. But Wilson is fully aware of what he did, and not sorry about it.
And the point of all this is?
Andrew Wilson, the man we interviewed today, is of sound mind. He's perfectly sane.
I disagree with your diagnosis.
I'd stake my medical license on it. And if he's sane, then who's this friend?
No one. A figment of his imagination.
But what if it wasn't? What if there's been more to this story the whole time?
Doctor, I'd like you to drop this. You're starting to sound like Wilson does.
God, you administration officers are all the same. Don't you want to know the truth?
Mr. Carter, we're talking about a murderer here. A monster.
There are no such things as monsters.
Herman, where are you going?
To get some answers.
Apparently, any meetings between upper staff at prisons in this state are to be recorded. They officially say it's for posterity, but my guess is for the government to make sure they aren't abusing the inmates. The policy worked in my favor on this one, though. It's how I got that tape. A tape in which a licensed and well-respected psychiatrist, Dr. Herman Carter, insists that Andrew Wilson, my family's killer, was perfectly sane. I wanted to disagree. I wanted to blame this whole thing on Andrew being some crazy person. But what I heard during the last tape from Havenwood proved definitively that that was wrong. And we'll get to that. But first, back to Kit. The next tape jumps to March 1980.
Hello, Catherine.
Hello, Doctor.
Doctor is too formal for us at this point. Please, call me Dalton.
Okay, Dalton.
Now, how have you been sleeping?
Much better, Doctor.
I am so pleased to hear it. You're taking your medication regularly.
I have been. I've been feeling better in general.
Wonderful. Do any anxieties remain?
Well, one does, actually.
The one about your family?
Yes. Them all being murdered.
This seems particularly deep-rooted, Catherine. Has anyone ever threatened to hurt your family?
What do you mean?
What I mean is, do you have a reason to believe this violence against your family may be a possibility?
Not that I know of.
You keep mentioning something awful happening. There must be a reason for it.
You think so?
Indeed. Now, I know this might be hard, but can you tell me about the episode you mentioned your mother having?
Well, it happened when I was 10 or 11, I think. I know my sister was a baby then. My mother had gone back to work at her old job at Town Hall. Things had been completely normal. I mean, Dad was a little eccentric, so normal for us. Then one night, she called Dad and told him to get us all out of the house and to call the police. He pulled us all out, and we waited as they arrived. They looked around the house for any danger, but didn't find any. Mom came home, and she ran inside and started tearing the house apart, looking for something. Then she went down to the basement and took a sledgehammer to the wall.
A sledgehammer?
Yeah. She said she was trying to find someone down there. Of course, she never did.
Then what happened?
She kept acting paranoid, so Dad took her to the doctor. The doc explained that it was all in her head, and she was dissociating, and they put her on drugs. It was that or the loony bin.
Loony bin?
Sorry, that was probably insensitive. The nut house. They worried that without medication she might hurt herself. Or one of us.
What did your mother tell your father when she called him?
She told him that someone was going to kill all of us.
My mom was a baby, so she never heard about this. But yes, apparently Grandma was worried that the whole family was going to be murdered. Which is an uncanny coincidence in all honesty. Though, as you can probably guess, I soon learned that it was a lot less coincidental than I initially thought. Kit's next interview was from October 17th, 1980. It's also her last interview. This one was especially difficult for me to listen to. Sitting here, hearing Kit talk a week before she died, it's like being a passenger on a runaway train. You know what's coming, but as hard as you try, you can't stop it. As loud as you cry out and tell her to get off, she can't hear you.
Hello, Catherine.
Hello, Doctor.
Goodness, are you all right?
No, Doctor.
It'll be all right. What happened?
I got into a fight with Garrett. He told me he thinks I'm wasting our money on this and that I'm putting us into debt.
That seems unfair.
He thinks because he's a man, he gets to make all the decisions. And acts like he's not wasting money too. He spends so much on fucking medical books, but my therapy is a waste.
Have you discussed this with him?
I try. He's just so fucking dismissive. I'm sick of it. I'm worried if we talk anymore, I'll say something and we'll...
What do you think will happen?
I worry we'll separate if we get into another argument.
Have you taken some time away? Is there somewhere you could go, maybe stay for a few days?
I suppose I could go visit my family. They live in... which is a bit of a drive, but... yeah, I could do that.
That may be wise. When couples are struggling, some time apart from each other can do wonders.
I think that's a good idea, Doctor.
Good to hear. Now, how has your sleeping been?
And that's it. With an innocuous suggestion, Dr. Thulis sealed Kit's fate. Hearing this sort of thing, you start to ask what-ifs. What if Kit and Garrett hadn't been fighting? What if Dr. Thulis hadn't suggested time apart? What if Grandpa hadn't offered Kit to stay whenever? When you ask those questions, you start a never-ending cycle of blaming others and yourself, trying to find who's responsible based on what they did when. But ultimately, responsibility lies with the person who did this. Andrew. Which brings us back to Dr. Carter and Havenwood.
Hello? Andrew, are you awake?
Dr. Carter, you're not supposed to be in here.
I know. I just wanted to hear more about your story.
You're not worried I'm gonna attack you?
I think I could help you, Andrew.
Help me.
Help you tell the full story. Tell the world what really happened.
What would you like to know?
Well, everything. But first, your friend.
Her.
Yes. Who was she?
Well, I can't exactly tell you, but I can show you.
How?
Give me that recorder in your pocket. You're clearly recording this. Give it to me.
Okay.
Now watch. What should I do with Dr. Carter?
Andrew, I don't understand.
I'm gonna play the tape back. Watch.
This is...
You want the truth, right?
Well, yes.
Well, this is the truth. What should I do with Dr. Carter?
Kill him.
Jesus Christ.
See you around, Doctor.
Dr. Carter was found dead the next morning, his head smashed off a metal bed rail. Andrew escaped that night using Dr. Carter's keycard and some scrubs and a medical mask as a disguise. Then, no word for a month. Until he called me. You're probably wondering, how the fuck did no one hear about this? The answer to that question is that Warden Hopkins covered it up. Hopkins had already been in some hot water for the mistreatment of prisoners, and a staff death paired with an escape was a PR nightmare. So we just buried it. Claimed Dr. Carter had a fall and just hid Andrew's whole escape. My mother and I were dragged back into this nightmare because a public official didn't want to lose his job. Fuck that guy. But the matter of hand is that recording, with that voice. In case you're wondering, that tape is completely undoctored. You can tell if something has been edited. There's a fuzz around the cut, or it sounds like someone speaks too quickly. That footage was unedited. Begging the question, who was that voice? In an earlier tape, Dr. Carter said that there are no such things as monsters. Human beings, no matter how awful they act, are human. I wish Andrew had been some evil creature, that I could explain it away like that. But he's not. But Dr. Carter was wrong.
What should I do with Dr. Carter?
Kill him. Kill him. Kill him.
There are such things as monsters. They just aren't human. The Longest Night, starring Elizabeth So as Jess Yock, Kit Domansky as Sarah Wilson, Adrian Pavone as Andrew Wilson, Lova Beckwith as Greg Wilson, Casey Belding as Kit Wilson, Brendan Rush as Clark Wilson, Olivia Thornton Nickerson as Judy Wilson, with Julia Pape as Daisy, and Ashley Zwick as the Friend. Featuring Martin Conca as the narrator, Zaharine Tarafdar as Erin Richardson, and Jasmine Cabanella as Cordelia Summer. Additional voices by Archie Burton Smith, Sabrina Weinstein, Morgan Beck, Beatrice Friedman, Michael Elliott, Aminda Basmont, and the entire Longest Night cast. Directed by Archie Burton Smith. Assistant directed by Morgan Beck. Art direction by Abigail S. Torero. Edited by Matt Lalonde. Produced by Sabrina Weinstein. Written by Archie Burton Smith. Special thanks to Molly Simpson for being the first and most supportive member of our audience. Deadringer and O Death by Bassett. Original music by Morgan Wolf.